Hello and welcome to another episode of the Expert CPG Commerce Podcast. My name is Ryan Flynn, the founder and CEO of Expert CPG Commerce, where we help brands reach more customers on Amazon and beyond. And today we've got an awesome episode with Reid Edgar. He's got a couple brands, Tru-Nut and Spot, a laundry detergent, which is a sheet laundry detergent. Really interesting concept there we'll get into and talk about. But Reid has over 11 years of building brand experience. And man, he goes down into some great deep dives into the industry and how he succeeded, and really appreciate everything he shared because it's such a valuable learning to everybody. You know, even I learned a couple new things today as well. So just a great conversation overall. And if you're a brand that's looking for help with Amazon in particular, we would love to help you. We love to show you what we can do, right? A lot of brands or agencies can tell you what they can do. We love to actually show you what we can do on Amazon. So we offer brands an audit. You can just go to expertcpg.com/audit. Put in some information there. We'll get back to you whether or not you qualify. And we actually like to just take a deep dive into your Amazon account. Make sure you're taking advantage of all the programs, opportunities, right? There's nothing that's really awry or missed, right, within your account that's preventing you from being maybe more successful on the platform. So we love doing this for brands. It's a great way for us to show our expertise and show a brand what we can do. So just go to expertcpg.com/audit. All right, now let's jump into the conversation with Reid Edgar. All right, I'm pleased to welcome Reid Edgar to the program today. Reid, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No, Reid and I have connected years ago through EO Entrepreneurs Organization, both members there. And Reid has got a couple different brands he's focused on, but I know, Reid, the one that we first met and you still are operating to this day is Tru-Nut, powdered peanut butter. And then you've got something new we can talk about as well. But yeah, let's just go into a little bit background of maybe your entrepreneurial journey, right? You know, take us through, was Tru-Nut your first venture, or did you get started something before that? And walk us through how you started Tru-Nut.
This is my first venture into, as I say, the real world. I had a few very small, like, internet businesses when I was in college. And then when I was 26, I started Tru-Nut, which was almost 11 years ago. I had no idea about anything in the food business and the CPG business. This was purely just, I thought it was a good idea. I wanted to do it. I thought there was an opportunity to create a healthy product that tasted really good, that people were familiar enough with, even though powdered peanut butter 11 years ago was a new concept. And it just seemed to check all the right boxes for me. And so I started it. I learned everything as I went, which is my style anyway. Every business thing that I've ever done has been like that. I think it's one of my better skills, is just learning quickly and just understanding how things work and how to make it all fit together. So I've done that with Tru-Nut and with my new company as well, and I'm sure I'll probably do it again at some point.
Powdered peanut butter, right? Am I missing anything outside of that? Or do you have, obviously, maybe at size variants, things like that, but you're powdered peanut butter. How would people use it in their daily lives?
Yeah, so powdered peanut butter is great. Not only does it taste like peanut butter, but it's a healthier version of peanut butter. It has 90% less fat, about 75% less calories than traditional peanut butter. So if you like peanut butter, like the taste, but you're watching your fat and caloric intake, this is a great way to keep something that tastes really good in your diet. It's very easy to use. Most people just take a scoop and put it in a smoothie or a protein shake. So you're adding a really nice peanut butter flavor. But if you just want spreadable peanut butter, like if you want a sandwich or you want something to dip an apple slice into for a healthy snack, you just mix the powder with water, stir it up, and it turns into a spread. So it's very cool. You can use it, and you can also cook with it, bake with it. So there's really an unlimited number of ways to use it to get, like I said, a healthy version of peanut butter. It's not loaded with oil. Not that the oils are bad for it. They're good oils, but at the same time, if you are watching your fat and caloric intake, this is a great way to have your peanut butter and eat it too.
There you go. It's the best of both worlds. So you mentioned, like, you didn't have a foray into the food world before this. Or I was like, how do you, like, because you think about, I'm going to take peanut butter and I'm going to make it into a powder form. Like, how do you even go about, like, finding, you got to develop the product first. Obviously, were you, like, doing your own, like, kind of concoctions of powdered peanut butter? How did you find the right, like, co-packer to partner with to bring it to life?
Sure. So, well, because I don't have a food background, I'm not a food scientist by any means, I found some good suppliers, or a good supplier, I should say. that really helped me in terms of getting the product from the farm to my facility. We started out packaging it ourselves. The very first day, it was me and my family, and we had a rented commercial kitchen space in Atlanta, and we were in there literally hand filling the jars one by one. And we did that for about 6 months until things started to take off fairly quickly. And then we moved to a co-packer in Atlanta as well. And it really, as with any business, really, it's just a lot of research, a lot of phone calls, finding the right people. That was how I found this co-packer too. I just called enough people. And for me, the big requirements were, will they accept peanuts in their facility because it's an allergen issue? And two, do they have the right equipment to blend and package this product? So there's two machines that they needed that, I needed in order to package this product. And so did they fit those qualifications? And I spoke to enough people until I found the right one.
So you got the production down, obviously moving it to a larger scale as you grew, but what was some of that first success in the sales channels like 11 years ago? You're talking still say early e-commerce days, but yeah, what were some of your initial, successful sales channels and how did you get it out there?
The first one that hit completely came out of the blue. They contacted me on the contact us form on my website. And they were like the fifth person that had filled out the form. And it was a customer in Kuwait. And they ordered, I think, 5 pallets of our product, which at the time was a massive order.
Really?
I mean, it's still a good sized order, but back then I was selling a case or two at a time, a local store. And all of a sudden these people are like, we want 5 pallets and we're paying in advance. Which sometimes is a little bit of a red flag, but this actually worked out. They were legit. And man, it was some long nights. This was in the first days and we were still hand filling jars.
Wow.
So that was a lot of long nights of packing and filling and taping boxes and fixing labels and assembling pallets, and did it all by hand. And that was when I knew, okay, I think we have something here. And there were a couple others that came right after that really validated what we were doing. And I think the category was still very new at that time. And so I knew we also didn't have a lot of competition. And so we were coming with this product that we knew people wanted that was just getting on the radar of, e-commerce sites and people all over the world. And so we were in a good position to take advantage of the new interest in this product.
Yeah, I always like to think business success, a lot of it's, I think like timing that's like at least 50%. I feel like you just got to hit sometimes the right time of like where the market's at, what people are looking for. Obviously, it's a very healthy alternative. Obviously, over the last, call it 10, 15 years, just the whole society has become much more health conscious on things. It's hard to time that right way. You can only look back retrospectively and say whether you did or not. So the huge order, the 5 pallet order, yeah, I can imagine like what's going through your head at that time when you're filling it by hand. Like it's exciting and scary at all at the same time, like you mentioned. How did you build from there? How did you get into do more? Was it more e-com next, or was it retail? What kind of came next?
I focused on grocery stores, which in hindsight was probably not the best idea, but there are positives and negatives to going down that road. As I said, I didn't know anything going into this business. So I also that means a lot of different things. And I also didn't know what to look out for, which was that groceries is not only not for the faint of heart, but it's also not for those of thin wallets. And I have no outside funding. This is all self-funded, and getting into groceries is expensive. And I've said this before, but I really think there is a formula to succeed in grocery and mass market retail, which is raise $5 million from a VC or a private equity firm, buy your way onto the shelf of every grocery store or whatever your target store is, promote the hell out of it, and lose money left and right at every corner until a big CPG comes along and buys you, because you have spent enough to boost your sales, even though you're not making any money. Basically just survive long enough until you get bought. And that seems to be the formula that a lot of these companies are following. And it seems to work. They get bought all the time, obviously, but the ones that succeed seem to follow something along those lines. And that's not the route I went down. I did not raise any money. I did buy my way onto some shelves. I did a lot of grocery stores, especially when you're a small, unknown brand. they want what they call a free fill. They want you to stock every shelf of every store with one case of free product for every SKU that you're giving them. And if you're looking at like the first grocery store we got into, or the first large chain, was called Jewel Osco in Chicago. And they have 180 stores, and we had 2 SKUs that went in there. That's 360 free cases. Plus, I went through a distributor, KeHE, which if anyone listening is thinking about working with KeHE, unless you have $5 million in the bank, I would advise you to think about that decision, because not only are you giving the free product away, but you're going to pay for a lot. You've got to pay to participate in all of their programs and their promotions, and cost of that free fill is going to be a lot more than you think. And it never ends with the fees and promotions and chargebacks. So when you go through that, and we were on the shelf for 3 years at Losco, and we had success. We had good sales, but ultimately we got kicked out. And we went through that cycle over and over again. A lot of different grocery stores, buy our way in, give them the free product. And because I didn't have the resources to really promote our brand, to succeed in grocery, you really do have to promote coupons, social media, events, demos. If you have your brand with celebrities and influencers promoting it, you need a full-on approach on all of those fronts in order to build your brand to succeed in grocery. You have all those costs, plus you have to deal with all the costs from the distributors and the retailers themselves. And that's tough without a lot of money behind it. And so I played this game over and over again with these grocery stores, buy in and then kicked out 2 or 3, 4, 5 years later. And when you get kicked out, it's the worst. Not only does it suck because you get kicked out, but you have to pay to get kicked out. And the fees that get charged, because you go to a grocery store and you see an item on clearance, that item is getting kicked out of their store. And guess who's paying for that giant markdown on those products? That is the vendor, not the store. Multiply that times however many stores, that's a lot of money you've got to give back. So I played this game for a long time, and we were able to survive all of these costs. And eventually I said, this just is not sustainable. We cannot keep doing this. And I don't even know where this is leading. And so I had to really kind of retool my business and look at it and say, okay, what is working? Where are we making money? And so I ditched grocery stores, and we're looking at our best channels are online, specialty retailers, department stores. We do a lot of exporting. We do a lot of food service sales as well. We also make private label for other people. So I just said, okay, we're going to focus on these areas, and it's going to hopefully sustain it. And it has. It's the business, I'd say, is in a much healthier position than it was 3 years ago, because, I had it in my head that I'm a food product. We're selling to grocery stores. That's what you do. And I got in with these brokers, and I'm not going to blame them, but they probably didn't properly give me a warning, here's what you're going to be facing. No, it's not necessarily their job. But I had to learn very quickly that, brands come and go for brokers, but retailers are ultimately their care customer, and they're not necessarily looking out for the brand. Some of them do. I have had some good brokers, but it's been a long journey to get here. But I think the brand and the company is in a much better place because we're focusing on what works and not what we're quote unquote supposed to do.
The focus on a lot of brands is, we got to get into grocery. We got to get, regional distribution and national distribution. And as you said, there's a lot of, you pull back the curtain of the grocery industry, and there's a lot of, can be a lot of ugliness in there. I don't want to paint with a power brush here, but there's just a lot of layers to it, distributors and such, and then a lot of costs to get onto the shelf. And yeah, it's your head against the wall, and you're wondering, why do we keep doing this? And I think a lot of businesses have that pitfall moment where it's, okay, this isn't working anymore. What is working? And it's great you saw this, right? Because again, everybody goes after that big, sexy, we got to get the good stores. We got to get how many doors you in, things like that. And then we just talked about another podcast recently where brands expect you to drive traffic to the stores, right? They expect you to also help get people in there as well. And I think some of the other channels you mentioned, private label, food service, people know they're there in the background, right? Brands know they're there, but I don't think as many people probably exploit them for what they could be doing and how they could really grow the other parts of their business and have those different lines.
I think the expectation is always oh, I'm going to sell my business for millions of dollars to Nestle or to Coca-Cola or whoever. And that's great if you can, but I think I got caught in this too. I was just focusing on how am I going to get to that point where I can flip this to somebody else. And, private label doesn't really help with that. And food service and all these like other accounts that VCs don't want to see. I think a lot of people get caught in we're in Walmart, we're in Target, we're in Kroger. But you can have a very successful business focusing on other things and not getting caught up in the name recognition of Walmart and Target and just focusing on this track that I was talking about before that companies pursue. They have sales, lose a bunch of money just to get acquired. They're focusing on Walmart and Target, and you have no idea how much money they are spending to lose money selling to these stores. And that's a tough battle to be in when you're a small company.
As you grew, right, and obviously the market grew and obviously competition grew, how did you start to differentiate or set yourself apart in any way? Obviously, maybe the channel mix might be the answer there, right? Just not focusing on the grocery channel, but were there any other ways that you kind of differentiated the brand versus competitors in the space as you grew over time?
I knew we had a great concept, this peanuts that have the oil extracted that are in powder form, taste great, it's healthy. You can use it a million different ways. Like the base of that is very good. So I thought, how can we appeal to different groups of people? So we have our primary powdered peanut butter, which is still our main product. Then we also have peanut flour, which is more specifically targeted for people who bake. We have our peanut protein powder, which is a higher level of protein for people that want more protein. And we have a keto product as well for people that are on the keto diet. So basically my thought process was, how can I take this concept and just get it in the view of more people that are, maybe they don't want powdered peanut butter, but maybe they bake. So even though you can use our powdered peanut butter for baking, but it's more aligned with what they're looking for if it's, peanut flour. And it's a different formulation as well. So it's better suited for cooking and baking. So that was my track when I innovated and tried to grow our product assortment. We've got a good thing. How can we just get it in front of more people?
And when you test those new innovative ideas, do you set yourself like a benchmark or a goal like, hey, we have to sell this many units or whatever the metric is, this amount of dollars or hit this margin? Do you do that? Or is like each use case is different when you develop like a new product or new line like that? So is there any hard targets you kind of follow?
So one of my best customers for 9 years now is TJX, which is TJ Maxx Commercials and Home Goods. And they're a great customer, probably my favorite company that I work with. And they're very good about testing new products. Like every time I talk to them, they're like, what do you got? What's new? And whereas grocery is often more hesitant, like they want the tried and true, I know this is going to sell. TJX is, we'll test it for you. Send us, so many thousands of units and we'll test it. And we'll let you know if it's good or not. And you'll get feedback very quickly. So that was a way that we tested a lot of new products. Obviously Amazon is good too, because you can get it right up there and you're not waiting for a category review cycle like you are with grocery. So Amazon and TJX are both very quick and very easy ways to test products. And TJX has 3,000 stores across the United States, in Canada, they're in Europe. So they can target a lot of people. And they're also just so much easier to deal with. It's not a commercial for TJX, but they really are great to work with. So that's how I test. I like to do it that way.
I've heard a lot of good things, like you said, but working with TJX, and obviously they've got those 3 brands, right? They have, like you said, thousands of stores all over. I've never heard a bad thing about working with them. I've always heard always great things about them as, working with them as a vendor and such. It's good to hear that echoed here.
I think there's a little bit of a stigma. And when you talk to grocery stores, when I was selling grocery, I would never tell them that I was selling to TJ Maxx because they're like, I don't want to, this is a discount store. We don't want to be competing against them. And TJ Maxx would sell it for a lower price than grocery stores. But I realized even though I'm selling it to TJ Maxx for a lower price, I'm making more money this way because I don't have to deal with distributors. I'm selling direct. They take no deductions, no fees. And it really is a better system, kind of the way it should be, I think.
And then, you mentioned you started the brand 11 years ago, right? So again, you came up through this whole, you've seen it all then happen with, e-com, Amazon, D2C, that whole thing definitely shifted over the last 11 years. Tell me about that. What's the journey been there? Pains, triumphs along the way that you can share there.
Man, that is,
it's a whole other episode, isn't it?
yeah, maybe multiple episodes. So yeah, I was selling on Amazon before I even started this business. I was a hustler. I would go to trade shows and buy stuff and put it on Amazon, and it was decent money for a young kid in his 20s. And so that was an easy transition when I started Tru-Nut. Put it on Amazon, and the sales have always been decent, but I've never really been able to crack the top levels. There's a few brands that are really dominating the powdered peanut butter space, not only on Amazon, but in grocery stores as well. And I think those go a bit hand in hand. To be at the top, you kind of need the name recognition of being in every grocery store in the United States. I don't know how to reach the top of Amazon without having, unless it's a different situation, how to reach the top of Amazon without having just a lot of name recognition. We're doing good, but nothing that I've ever done has really moved the needle as far as tweaks and all that for my Amazon listings, running ads. We sell the same amount. It seems no matter how much I spend on advertising, our sales are always pretty steady. But we've had a lot of success in the European market. And like in Germany, we're number one. We're the top powdered peanut butter brand. Germany's a really good market. We sell more in Germany with one SKU than my entire catalog in Amazon US. And I think I was early in the game in Europe, especially on Amazon. I think we were probably the first, maybe the second brand on there. And I honestly think that has a lot to do with it. We were established for many years before some of these other brands have come along. We have a lot more competition now, even within the last few months. And they're doing all the same things I'm doing. They're running ads. They've got good listings. They've got good pictures. They can't get close to my rank. And I think Amazon they reward the ones that sell. And we've been selling very well. And I think those brands need to be in a lot of retailers they need to drive some external traffic in order to bring me down. And I don't think that's going to happen in Germany anytime soon. So we're in a really good position. Now, obviously, I could blow it. There's many ways to blow it. As long as I don't go out of stock for too long, we've got a good thing going in Germany and are trying to grow in the other countries as well. But we've had a lot of success in that market.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where you don't want to lose your lead, right? Like when you're the top dog, everybody's gunning for you, but you don't want to rest on your laurels and kind of coast, right? Business history is littered with companies that have done that. And so it totally makes sense. And yeah, I've always heard Germany's obviously a great market. We've seen it with some of our clients as well. I'm curious, talk to us a little bit about exporting a food product. I'm going to assume it was still manufactured in Atlanta, but you were exporting to Europe. Talk to us about that whole process, about, because when you got anything ingestible or topical, there's a whole nother level of things when you come to exporting and then importing to another country. Talk to us the broad strokes about that whole process. And was it what you expected? Were there little caveats on the way that you never saw that would come up?
Absolutely. There are still caveats that come up every time that I did not see coming. Exporting is tough. Exporting food is especially tough. We still run into issues on every single shipment. It seems like something comes up that we did not anticipate, or there's some new requirement that customs is asking for, or our freight broker wants to be extra sure that our shipment's not going to get flagged, so they want all this extra stuff. Everyone is different. It really takes a lot of time. The thing that I'm probably the most proud of is I've built a really good network of companies. It took me a long time to assemble this people that are helping me at every single step along the way, because there's a lot of steps. Freight broker and the forwarder. You've got to have somebody in this case in Europe clearing the stuff for you. You've got to have someone warehousing and transporting it to the Amazon warehouse, or we have a couple of customers in Europe as well outside of Amazon. So having people that can do that, and you kind of have to wade through a lot of layers of people that they know you're a U.S. company and they know you don't have the connections. And so you get, double the price for a lot of things until you can scrape through those layers of middlemen, which took me a while, but I did. And so now I've been able to really lower our costs and do things a lot more efficiently. That was tough. And something that I figured out as I went. And building this network, it was really valuable. And now, we're about to ship typically we just send pallets, but we're about to ship our first container to Europe next week, I believe. So that's going to open up a whole nother level of, efficiencies and making things better and faster and just giving us more of an advantage in that market.
I'm always the belief if it's hard to do, it's like worth doing because it's going to set, entrepreneurship, a lot of it is learning your mistakes and you're going to hit walls and just blowing right through those, and just a door closes, you find the open window kind of thing. And that's what a lot of companies are going to stop through that whole process of, or not, like you said, digging deep and getting past the middlemen and finding the more direct relationships are going to make it more sustainable. So, I mean, that's a differentiator right there for your brand and your company overall, right? Where you've established those relationships. Now that's just a normal everyday channel for you, so to speak. Yeah, that's great. Talk to us a little bit about the new brand. So you still got Tru-Nut, still operating that, but over the past, year or two, you've started another brand. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started Spot about a year ago. Spot makes laundry detergent sheets, which is an eco-friendly version of laundry detergent. It's what it sounds like. It's a little sheet that contains all of the cleansers and the detergents that will clean your clothes. So you take the sheet, put it in the washing machine with your clothes. Once it hits the water, it will dissolve and disperse all of the soap. And so your clothes clean just like normal. The sheet, it's not like a dryer sheet where you have to take it out at the end of the cycle. It dissolves. So it's very lightweight, very compact. It's less than the size of a book on a shelf, I like to say. And it doesn't come in a plastic jug like liquid laundry detergent, so much more eco-friendly in terms of the amount of plastic that's being used and thrown away. And also when you think about the amount of gasoline that's used to transport all these jugs of liquid detergent, we're essentially driving soapy water across the country from warehouse to warehouse, to store to home, whereas we're just, shipping these little sheets. And you really don't need liquid detergent because you have water at your house that's going in your washer anyway. So all you really need is the soap, and that's what the sheet is. Works just as well without all the plastic.
Great cost savings there from obviously a consumer standpoint, a brand standpoint, and everything else. What's it been like starting that? Obviously different. You can take a great benefit of being an entrepreneur this long, and I can attest this because I've been an entrepreneur at the same amount of time, is that you just learn a lot. And you're a little dangerous in a good way because you've learned so much. So tell us about the journey of starting that and where you see the brand going forward.
I'm an environmentalist myself. I care a lot about the environment, and the goal with this company is to practice what I call pragmatic environmentalism, which is bringing eco-friendly concepts to mainstream audiences in a way that is affordable and approachable for them. So typically eco-friendly products it's super green and everything. We're leading with an environmental message, and I don't want to do that. If people buy it because it is a eco-friendly product, that's great. I think in order to really move the needle and drastically reduce our plastic waste, we're going to need everybody on board. And that means we got to sell to mainstream consumers that don't really care about the environment. They care about work and is it affordable. So with our packaging, it's very mainstream. It looks like a just plain Jane, just regular everyday cleaning product. And so I don't want consumers to see a difference when they buy this product. So where is the brand? Where do I see it going? I want this to be, a mainstay on just the regular shelf of retail stores. Now, I do take what I learned with Tru-Nut into hand. Like, I'm not really approaching grocery stores, but I'm approaching more like value stores. And we've had some difficulties because this path is it's new. They're not used to seeing eco-friendly products. They're not used to seeing, this is a new product anyway. And it's also priced very well. We are much cheaper than liquid detergent. And I think sometimes that can be that things don't make sense in the buyer's head when they're looking at this, or they just say, we're just not ready for this yet. My customer's not ready for this. And so we're having a lot of difficulty convincing people, but I know it's going to happen. Like, this concept is already taking hold, particularly online. This is a very popular item on Amazon, and it's only a matter of time But I want us to be ready for when those stores are ready or they think they're ready, that I'll be there and ready to target this market. Because most of my competitors are really focusing on those green shoppers that want to spend extra money because they think they're doing something good for the environment. Whereas not a lot of people are really focused on where I'm focusing. So I think that will also give us a good entry into a lot of points of sale. And again, where is the brand going? I wanted this concept to more products than just laundry detergent. I want to develop other eco-friendly products that can be sold at a lower price than the traditional plastic-laden mainstay, and present it to mainstream audiences in a way that they can afford and that they're used to.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think I can already see, you've laid all the groundwork, right? The production angle of it, the market of it, right? And you were talking about timing earlier, and if you're just there and you're ready to pounce once that opportunity does hit, or the cross section of, if you said the pragmatic environmentalist, almost like the supply and demand curve kind of meet, that's when you're already ready. You're there. So that's great. And I can already see it. I can see the channel benefits of things like, even like people and do camping, or people that traditionally maybe use a laundromat. Like, this would be a great product for folks like that, because obviously they care a lot about lugging around big things of detergent, whether they're the camper or to and from the laundromat. Well, yeah, that's awesome. Looking back and looking forward too, what do you maybe see on the horizon of maybe just CPG in general? Obviously, you've seen it from a few different angles now. Anything that's on the horizon that you're excited about or nervous about? What would you say?
Oh boy, it's another long answer. Yeah, I feel like we're in a place where it's harder now for smaller brands to succeed in retail, except in what I think are very niche channels, which is where we're doing well. And there'll always be new brands coming up that are venture funded. You can always tell which ones have the money behind them because they've got all the placements, they've got the packaging that looks way beyond what a 3-month-old company should have, and they're in every store overnight. But I think the opportunities for new brands are really going to start shifting online, and it already has shifted online. And that's going to really be your bread and butter, I think. With that said, I think there's also going to be a lot of change. I don't know exactly how this is going to play out, but the UNFI and KE model of distributing products to grocery stores, I don't think is sustainable. I think something is going to happen, and there's going to be a huge upheaval in how we get products to grocery stores, because this model, this is an ancient model that they are operating under, and it just doesn't make sense in today's world where consumers have so many ways of buying products. They don't have to go to the grocery store and get everything that they want anymore. There's a million channels now. And these companies, I think, are taking advantage of new companies that, maybe they don't know any better, or maybe they have or maybe they do have a lot of money from a venture capitalist and they've got money to burn. And if that ever dries up, then they're screwed. And so I think there's going to be a big shift in the way that grocery stores operate. And I think they got a lifeboat during the pandemic when people were shopping so much. And I think that extended their deadline for making some changes in the way that they operate, but something is going to change soon. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but something is going to happen. And grocery stores are going to figure it out. Whoever does are going to be the ones that survive. But Amazon and Walmart and Target are going to be there moving first. And if you don't move right after it, then you're going to be in trouble. For retailers and for brands. Brands have to be ready to, the environment seems to be shifting all the time. And I really think that, especially new and smaller brands, really shouldn't be thinking so much about these retailers. Think about online, think about exporting, and if it's applicable to you, private label and food service. Like, those are things that you don't rely on these ancient industries. Like, grocery is such an ancient industry that just doesn't make sense in today's world with these new brands. If you're Coca-Cola, yeah, it makes sense, but I don't think that's where new brands should be focused.
Yeah, that's awesome insight. And then, so looking, from forwards to maybe backwards, what's something you maybe wish you knew when you started? You've learned so much, I can imagine, over the last 11 years, but what's the one thing you were like, man, I wish I would have known about that, or I wish I would have knew that when you first started?
Funny, I posted something on LinkedIn about this today and about how it's very difficult for young brands to succeed at grocery stores. So grocery stores work on what's called a category review schedule. So once every year, they review every category. So for peanut butter, that month may be January. On January, they look at peanut butter. They decide what's in, what's out, and that change will happen in 6 to 8 months. And then next January, they will do it again. You only have, if you're going in, they decide in January, you're in the stores around the fall, and then they're reassessing again in January. So you've only got a few months to make a big impact and say, I belong on this shelf. Meanwhile, you've given them a free case of product in every store. You're doing the store's promotions. You're doing the distributor's promotions. You're running demos. You're doing coupons. All of this stuff for a 4 to 5 month trial period. Because that's what grocery is. You're on a one year contract over and over again. And I don't even want to think about how much money I've spent on those programs. And it was just not the right decision. And so if I could go back and do that again, I would try to think to myself, what is the best way forward for me? Like, what is not only what's going to be profitable, what's good for my brand? And grocery stores are good for your brand. That's probably the best thing they have going for them. You get brand awareness. You get to tell people, I'm in Kroger, I'm in Publix or whatever. But is it worth potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars to say that? And I don't, in my case, the answer was no. So I wish I had known that before then, So I think that's, I would give myself a lengthy lesson on retail and how retail works. I wish I had known that back then. And I really did have a lot of people helping me. So I always like to pay it forward and help other small brands and people that are coming into this space, but even still, there's some things you just don't know until you go through it and learn the hard way.
Yep, you got to experience the pain of it and sometimes the stomach churning aspect of it as well. So for sure. Well, Reid, this has been a fantastic conversation, and man, like you said, we probably could have delved into whole other side topics on other episodes. Maybe we'll have to have you back on and discuss some of those because you got some great insight. But last but not least, where can people find your brands? Where's the best place for them to find them at?
Amazon's always the best if it's everywhere. You can find, Spot. You can find Spot and Tru-Nut in TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and Home Goods. One of my favorite retailers, as I said. That's probably the top place to find us. And then internationally, Amazon as well. That's probably the best place to find us. Tru-Nut, TRU-NUT, and then Spot detergent sheets. Look us up.
Awesome. Well, Reid, thanks again for all the insight and great conversation.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, what a great conversation with Reid Edgar from Tru-Nut and from Spot laundry detergent sheets. And I really appreciate reading all of his insight. Like I said, just a wealth of information there. I'd love to have him back on again to talk about some of these other topics that we just, could have been their own episode as we discussed. And if you're getting value from this podcast, please help us out by rating, reviewing us, subscribing, all the fun stuff that you can do on all those channels you get these podcasts to, whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify, your favorite podcast player. Please do that. It just helps. And share it too. If you got value from this and think somebody else would benefit from it, just share it. That's how we help this thing grow. So we appreciate it very much. So until next time, we'll see you on the next episode of the Expert CPG Commerce Podcast. Thanks.